There is no greater smell in the morning than the smell of not one but two fresh new updates for a wonderful indie turn-based strategy RPG. And today we're talking about those very updates for Together in Battle. My name is Tom, otherwise known as Titanium Legman, and welcome back to the channel. Hello everyone, if you enjoy what I do, including my coverage of updates for turn-based strategy RPGs, including indie ones, which I adore, then a like on this video and a subscription to the channel would be very much appreciated. Thank you so much. So yes, we're talking Together in Battle today, and if you don't know what Together in Battle is, then you clearly have not been paying close enough attention to the channel, as we just spoke about the title not that long ago. It is a phenomenal indie turn-based strategy RPG from the beautiful mind of Sinister Design, friend of the channel, who I think is bringing a lot of very innovative ideas to the genre. Together in Battle has a very healthy mix of influences from things like Final Fantasy Tactics, Fire Emblem, other very classic turn-based strategy RPGs, and puts them together into a package that has a lot of unique features going for it, including manipulation of terrain, the utilization of terrain to handle enemies, lots of very interesting classes, races, and a very compelling storyline that kind of has a little bit of roguelike element to it, with randomly generated mercenaries who you hire and variable ways that their relationships can develop, while still having a core story that you're able to progress through as you go through the arena and other story battles. I highly recommend that you check it out. I'll have a link to the game in the description below. If you're not familiar with it, now's the time, because update 0.9 just came out and we're looking like we're going to have a spring 2025 release. So if you want to start learning what the game is about, you can check it out sooner rather than later. Now, as far as the patches are concerned, I'm not going to read through every single line. You'll be able to find those patch notes through Steam, but I want to go through and highlight things that I'm particularly interested in or that I think are particularly impressive. Because remember, while there is a team of people that Sinister Design works with to commission art or work on different things like OST, maybe, different facets, the primary focus of the project is all on him, which makes it extremely impressive to see what he has going on here. We will start with the monthly update from October, then move into the monthly update for November, which just dropped, going through some of my particular highlights here. One of the big notable things is that we now have major new story content that is going to directly affect the outcome of the game, as well as scenes that follow it. This seems like it's going to be a pretty unique mission. I've not yet encountered it myself, where you, quote, must scour an empty palace under time pressure. Where will you search, and in what order your choices affect the outcome? This is something that I've been wanting to see from turn-based strategy games for a long time, where you have more opportunities to have your actual actions in combat affect what happens after said combat. Because, you know, it tends to be pretty linear. You go through a Fire Emblem game and it's like, well, we might be in a rush to escape this cave or whatever, but it wasn't actually an escape condition. We just had to, like, get to the exit with the Lord. So we can dilly-dally killing reinforcements for 50 turns, and then our characters are still going to sprint out of there as if the ceiling has been collapsing the entire time, right? I like to actually see the opportunity for your behavior in a mission to impact how things progress post that mission. To go along with that, there's a new plot battle where the outcome affects the scenes to follow, and new branching cutscenes following this plot battle, as well as a second bad ending for the game. Notably, this means there's going to be at least 3 endings to the game as far as I'm aware, as the good ending is going to be implemented with the full release, I think. Next up, we have some updates that I like to think are at least partially due to my feedback, as I've been playing in the early access version of the game. During caravan battles, the game now dynamically adjusts the number of AI-controlled ally guards on the battlefield based on how many characters you're fielding, making it much less risky to send only 2 characters. There's also been tweaks made to the numerous condition in caravan guard battles to make it less likely to generate scenarios where the player is quickly overwhelmed by enemies. This is particularly interesting, as there are a number of scenarios where you maybe go to do a caravan mission in the jobs board, and maybe you only want to send 2 characters, maybe you don't want to send a whole complement of 4, and then you can just find a situation where it was like, oh, I've just been overwhelmed because the AI allies are not numerous enough or not capable enough to handle it. Especially if you get the condition where a number of enemy bandits spawn, like a higher number than normal, and it's just completely impossible to keep them off the caravan long enough to protect them. So this is a great change to see. I think it's going to make these caravan battles feel far less risky, because it really sucks if you're going to go out on a mission and like not be getting as much money as you would have been getting from doing an arena fight, only to then wind up having the game throw extra enemies at you for no reason, just get overwhelmed and lose your money, especially if you're really relying on getting that money to keep your progress going in the campaign. Here's another one that I'm pretty sure comes directly from my feedback. The game now tracks if a battle event already occurred in the evening and if a scheduled league match occurred earlier in the day or will occur the following day before it feeds you a late night battle event. This is something that I ran into multiple times as I was playing, where I would have like an arena fight and then I would get like ambushed by bandits on the way home, and then I would get ambushed by thieves in the middle of the night consecutively. No time to rest, no time to change equipment around, no time to get my characters patched up, nothing. And running through 3 battles in a row, especially if you're playing on Challenging Plus or higher, can be incredibly brutal if you just don't have the team size you need to swap in healthy characters. Now, this is not going to be an issue any longer. Considering how difficult things like the Thief Attack and Thief Attack 2 fights can be, this is great. Because they're really cool fights. I do like the idea of we got ambushed in the middle of the night, everyone pile out of your tents, go, 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 grab your gear, we're under attack. That's fun, especially getting attacked from multiple sides, having to figure out where you can kind of send your scattered troops to survive. I do enjoy that. It just really sucked when it was like, well, I've got 3 people up, everyone else is resting because they got beat up in the arena, and we're screwed. And now all my money is gone. Great. So I think this is just going to be a little bit of a alleviation of feels bad moments. Alongside this, you will now no longer get this first thief attack or the second thief attack if you have less than 6 or 8 characters respectively. Again, I imagine this is going to be something that will alleviate extra feel bads from just being like, well, I don't have enough dudes to survive this. Given the fact that you have no control over when these events happen at all, it can feel extra punishing, and I have had it happen where it pretty much ends a run when I get one of these attacks, when I have enough characters to fend it off, and everything just snowballs into a dead run, which can happen. You can get game overs because of various different factors. There's also been a number of improvements made to the game's AI. Look, for example, at the previously mentioned caravan missions. Now, in missions like that, Allied AI will be much more inclined to stick close to and protect the thing that they're supposed to be protecting, rather than just running off into the enemy horde and getting slaughtered for their trouble. This is really nice. It kind of alleviates green unit syndrome, as many people who are familiar with Fire Emblem will probably be painfully familiar with, and actually make it set the guards, guard, and help you keep the enemy off of the caravans that you're all trying to protect. Semi-related, AI characters will also try to stick closer to each other a little bit, which is really cool because, it's very easy to get outflanked and start taking bonus damage from being attacked from the side or the back, to get cut off from your team, and that is just a recipe for disaster. So, knowing that the AI is going to be a little bit more strategic about how it actually sticks to itself and tries to protect its flanks is really cool to see. Next up, let's take a look at the 0.9 update, where there's even more really cool features that have been added to the game. Now, again, I've not had the opportunity to see any of these updates yet. I've just recently started a fresh run of Together in Battle to get the full experience as I go through and experience these updates kind of in a live setting rather than with an old save file. And I'm excited to see what's on offer because, man, it sounds really cool. There's been a bunch of new investigation scenes and plot elements that have been added that, again, I've not yet had the chance to experience, but from what we see at this screenshot here of the map, it looks like it's going to be a really cool setup. There's going to be a new opportunity for morning events to occur alongside evening events when you first go to town, which should add some nice variety to the day-to-day gameplay. There's apparently an entire event chain that has been added partway through one of the months. And Sinister Design has left this intentionally vague, but he says that he does feel it adds a lot to the game's atmosphere and feeling of stakes, and offers a new method for further upgrading characters who've reached the end of their skill progressions. Now, this is interesting, because as far as character progression is concerned, I've mainly seen them unlocking skills as they level, and then being able to promote into new, higher level classes. I don't know what would come after that, or how this would change how characters would get upgraded. I don't know if it's like a class change system or what, but this is one of the features that I'm the most excited to check out. I love character progression in strategy RPGs. I love job systems. I love promoting to new classes. So I'm very eager to see exactly what this feature is going to entail. He's also added 19 unique books that apparently serve as, quote, endgame upgrade items. And again, rather than explaining what they do, he would like us to find out for ourselves, but he did list the titles, some amongst them having notable names such as Arrowing Around Armor, Concussive Cryoblasts, Dive and Ditch, A Swooper's Guide, Gust with Gusto, Powerful Pyroblasts, Self-Defense and You, How to Make Enemies and Influence People, etc. So I imagine that these are going to be class-specific upgrade books that maybe either upgrade your existing skills, teach you a new skill, or something along those lines to maybe give like an ultimate ability, perhaps? I'm completely spitballing here. I have no inside information into what exactly this would entail. But again, much like with a new method of progressing characters who've reached the end of their skill progressions, unless this is part of the same thing, which I'd be surprised if it was, maybe it is. I do love character progression features, so I really want to be able to experiment with these books as soon as I'm able to get my hands on them. The game also now has a few new interesting kind of modifiers or mission objectives when you're fighting in the arena. First off is the Arena Battle Condition Inspirational Leader, where there's a very particular named character on the enemy team that gives a boost for energy recovery, damage, accuracy boosts, etc. to the enemy team and negates any boosts to your team. However, if you're able to take this leader down, those bonuses are instead reversed. So now you'll get the bonuses to all of your stats, and the enemy will lose the bonuses to all of their stats. This is really cool. It reminds me of certain fights like in, I believe it's Thracia 776 Fire Emblem, where you have to fight Saius, I believe is the name. It's been a long time since I played 776, my apologies, but he has like max leadership stars, and all of the units under his command, as a result, have hugely boosted stats. So you either need to figure out how to work around them to take down Saius, or very carefully pick down each enemy character. I'm very excited to see how this actually plays out in combat. I imagine it could be pretty brutal on higher difficulties to have such a big swing in enemy stats compared to your stats, but it could also make for very interesting gameplay trying to figure out how to get to that important enemy leader, and then very satisfying when you're the one getting the stat boosts instead. This next objective is one that I take some personal credit for, as we now have Attack the Idol. It was an objective for a long time in the previous versions of the game where you had to defend the idol, a particular monolith that, if it was destroyed, would cause you to lose the fight. You had to defend it while taking out all of the enemy units. It was a pretty cool little objective, fairly unique. Now, the tables have been turned. Now you can be the one who has to destroy the idol. You're under a very strict time limit in order to do so, with the enemy team playing defense trying to protect said idol. So how dangerous is this going to be? How difficult is it going to be? I don't know. But if you wind up getting rolled by this mission, I'll take some credit for that. Harkening back to influence from other classic strategy RPGs, there was a condition where there were fans in the crowd who might say, hey, if you can beat this mission without using this particular skill, I'll give you a bonus reward. Well, now, as you get further into the game, that condition will increase to preventing you from using 2 of your skills. And I immediately thought of the laws in Final Fantasy Tactics Advance that as you progress through the game would get more and more severe, and there'd be more of them at the same time. This kind of feels like the same thing to me. It's like, okay, well, now there's even more restrictions on you. How do you handle that, bucko? But you also get a reward for it, rather than it just being the passive existing state of things like with the laws in FFTA. So it is still nice to be able to achieve this objective, and it's cool to see that it progresses over the course of the game as you have more tools at your disposal that would make it easier to get around this rule. Finally, there's been a whole bunch of UI improvements, quality of life things that you would kind of expect from a game like this, things that should just make it easier to see at a glance what it is that you're doing in a given mission, or make menus easier to navigate as you're in town, buying gear, managing your characters, etc. Overall, with all of these quality of life improvements, with all of these tweaks to the game to improve performance, add new enemies, add new class progression, increasing the amount of plot battles and the different variety in plot battles that can occur, the new variety in mission objectives, the listening to the community, both myself and others, to add a bunch of cool new features, cool new ways to play the game, or balancing out things that felt a little rough in the early access period, I'm extremely confident that when Together in Battle launches, it is going to be an extremely engaging project. As I said at the top of the video, I highly encourage you to check it out. Even if you want to wait for the full release, fair enough, but like really, there's a lot to this game. And while I know some people might say like, oh, well, I don't like the graphics, or like, I don't like the character portraits or whatever, you got to look past stuff like that if it's not to your taste and actually try a game that is this mechanically strong. If you are a proper fan of turn-based strategy RPGs, I implore you, give this one a shot. I think you'll be extremely happy that you did. I, of course, will be continuing to provide updates about the game as they come out and we approach that release in spring of 2025. And also, based on a fun little thing that we saw in the plans for the future section, I plan on doing a full campaign run of the game when it launches in 1.0. We will be doing the whole works here. Members and patrons will be able to submit character requests. I will be adding you to the campaign when and where I'm able to as mercenaries. We'll have permadeath. I think it's going to be a grand old time to see if I'm even able to survive through to the end of the campaign. This is going to be made doubly more interesting as there's a little mention here. Sinister Design would maybe like to flesh out the custom character creator a bit, allowing for, quote, player customized character backgrounds and dialogue. I mean, guys, think about the roleplay possibilities here. If you're able to design your character's backgrounds and then I can put them into the campaign, like no longer will character story be just relegated to the comments or the live stream. If you could actually provide me that background and I can put it into the game with these custom characters, I mean, we're reaching like XCOM 2 levels here. You know, I don't want to hype it up too much. It's a possibility for the future. I don't want to put too much pressure on Sinister Design's shoulders, but in terms of actually having a roster of mercenaries that are you guys, that are your characters, that we can put into the campaign, and then they'll start like dynamically developing relationships with each other. People can die. People can get into like romantic relationships, friendships. We can learn more about your backstories together. There's a lot of potential for a ton of fun community interaction with this title when the 1.0 release comes around. So fingers crossed that it's a feature that we'll be able to see going forward, because I think it would be an absolute blast. Speaking of community things as well, you might notice that there have been some names scrolling by on the right side of the screen. These are, of course, the direct supporters of the channel via YouTube memberships and Patreon, and I appreciate each and every single one of you. I know I've been a little bit behind on maintaining the Patreon, on doing Q&As, things like that. It's been a busy couple of months. My apologies. My goal is to be back on track here and make it worth your time and your money to invest in the channel and invest in me, because your direct support is one of the things that is absolutely helping me to keep this channel running. So thank you so much. If you are interested in joining as a member or a patron, I will have links to those things in the description below, and you could have your name up here every week as well. With that said, though, I'm going to wrap this one up here. My name has been Tom, otherwise known as Titanium Legman. I do hope that you all have a good night. Stay safe and healthy out there. And remember, be good to each other. Bye now.